Now what we're going to talk about is how to take those casts and props that we created in our last video and how to actually sketch our user experiences. So I'm going to show you a couple of different techniques. But again, one of the things we're after, remember, with sketching is how do I get there fast? How do I communicate the experience without spending a lot of time, because I want to communicate a lot of different experiences. So let's not get excited about is it elegant. We're really interested in communicate and communicate fast. Okay, so the first thing I've done is I've been working a lot lately in handheld and classroom kinds of things. So here's a set and a cast I built up. So what I've got here is I've got a couple of sets. There's 3 whiteboards with their erasers. Here's a room that has a bunch of whiteboards at the end of it. Since I'm dealing with students, I've got desks. I've got a couple of students. These have laptops. This woman has a tablet. I've got a table. Sometimes I want to do a pull-down screen rather than something else. Here's a projector I can put in the ceiling. Here's a podium for the teacher to stand behind. There's a tablet. There's a laptop. There's a handheld. Here is, since I'm talking a lot about teachers, what I did is I've got sketches of teachers done in 3 different poses. Just talking, pointing at something on the board, being a little bit dismayed at what's going on. Now, these things here and these things here, I rough sketched them and then went into PowerPoint, built them up, filled them in. The other approach you could have taken is, as we talked about last time, you could have got pictures off the internet. Another one where if you need multiple poses, and I really recommend this for a particular character, just pick a character, do 4 or 5 poses that you can think about sitting, standing, pointing, whatever, and just put them all together. And the way you do that is you go out and just take a webcam, point it at somebody, have them do each of the poses, snap a picture, snap a picture, snap a picture, do the trace over technique that we did before. Here, what we've got right here is I've got a couple of different pointing fingers created the way we saw in the last video. So what I can do, generally what I like to do is keep my cast below the slide I'm working on. So as I keep adding slides, the cast is just the next slide. So let's come along here and I will select this, copy it. I'll go to this slide, paste it. Now what I've done is I actually created these things very big. I created them very big and then shrunk them down to put them on my cast slide, because all I need to do is see enough of them to know what it is. Boom, I got a classroom. Okay, let's go back to my cast slide and let's get me a teacher. Copy that teacher and put him in there. And of course he's way too small, so I'll stand him right there. Make him appropriate size. All right, and then we need some students. Oh, let's give him a table to lecture from. Yeah, we'll give him a podium. Copy that podium, switch over here, paste the podium in place. There we go, teaching from a podium. And we need some students. So I'll grab this student right here, copy him, and then go paste, 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 3 students. Now these students all look alike. But for what I'm trying to tell, that might not be a big deal. If I want a little diversity in there, I'll go grab a woman student with a tablet, paste her in here. Mix her into the group. Okay, they're probably a little small, but you see how very quickly I put together what I wanted to talk about. Simple cast of characters. So if I've got a cast, so like I said, it's very convenient if you leave the cast slide immediately below whatever slide you're working on. So if I want to do a new slide, there's a new slide, and there's my cast slide, and I can start plugging those things in. And I've got devices and screens and projectors. This is what I was talking about. You'll want to create a cast for whatever the topic area you're interested in. But once you've got a cast and some props, you're going to be able to do what you want to do. Now what I want to do is I want to show you a different technique that basically uses images. These cast members are actually images rather than the PowerPoint built-up things. And it turns out that transparent images are easy to use for a variety of purposes. They're not as easy to pose, but they're easier to grab and pull out. So I'm going to show you how to make some of those in just a second using PowerPoint. Okay, so let's take another approach. Let's take our baby. We want to add the baby to our cast. And to add the baby to our cast, I can either add them as a PowerPoint grouped object, which lets me work at them, but sometimes I actually like to use them just as images. It simplifies a lot of things, as I'll show you here in a minute. So my preferred approach is to use the snipping tool. The snipping tool comes from Microsoft. Everything Windows 7 and later has the snipping tool installed. And so you can do a new snip. It just says click like so. And I've got a capture of that little image right there. Okay, now if you don't have the snipping tool or you're working in something else, there is the print screen button, PRTSCN. You'll usually find it on the upper right of your keyboard. That will take a capture of your entire screen and put it on the clipboard, the same as this little clip that I put on the clipboard here. Now, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to fire up Photoshop. Photoshop is my favorite image tool. You can use others. So I'll do Photoshop, and I'm going to create a new image. Nice thing about Photoshop is it automatically creates the image at the same size as the clip I had, and then I'll just do paste. Okay, there's my baby right there. Now what I want to do to make this a useful cast member is I've got to get rid of all this background. So I will take the quick selection tool. There are other kinds of tools. Flood fill with a white background is pretty easy. I'm just going to go around. I'm going to create what they call a knockout image. So I've selected everything around the baby's head. I hit delete and it goes away. And now what happens is everything is transparent. Now I'm going to do something else to this, which you will definitely have to do if you use a, if you use the print screen, because the print screen is going to give you your entire screen. You don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a grab down here, and I'm going to align this bounding box as close as I can to my actual cast character. I'll go up here and say image crop, and I've now got an image of the baby. Remember, this is the baby I created by tracing before. Okay, and I've actually got all the things eliminated. I'll do a save, and I'm going to save it as a PNG. You want to save it as a PNG or a GIF, because PNG and GIF both support transparency. PNG gives you a little better color range, so that's usually what I use. So I will call this baby, and right now I'll just put it on the desktop. Okay, so that basically took our PowerPoint thing and created a cast out of it. Now I want to show you what we're going to do with that cast. But first I need to get rid of Photoshop. Alright, we're back in PowerPoint, and there's our cast slide. But this time I'm not going to use a cast slide. What I'm going to do is I'm actually taking all the images from which this cast slide was created, and I've actually got them in a folder over here. There's our baby, which we had before. Basically I've got all these this folder full of all the various cast members. And here's the reason why I want to do this, is because what I'm going to be able to do now is pretty quickly throw together a story. So in this case, I've got my blank slide, and I'm going to go over here and say, okay, let's grab the room, put it in there. Okay, it turns out that when I use images, I can just drag and drop them, and it turns out dragging and dropping them out of here I find a little bit easier than using this cast slide down here. Your mileage may vary. You might not want to use multiple tools, whatever you like. So let's suppose what I'm going to do here is I want to give my teacher a table. That table's too big. We'll scale it down here, make it fit into this room. Okay, now one of the other things I can do is, notice I've done a pretty simple board here. What we're going to do is we're going to do a lot of dragging and dropping of content. So let me make a slide here. And let me build up a user interface here pretty quickly. So let's go home. I've got shapes. Let me grab a rectangle. So here's a rectangle. I don't want it filled. Give it a black outline. Okay, and then I can come along with another rectangle. And I can come up here and I can say menu. And I can take another rectangle and simulate my menu here. Say file. Cell. I'm just throwing together a user interface. I'm actually being pretty rough about it and not really aligning it very well. Bye. Okay, so let's say this is the user interface I think I want to have. I'm going to make a group out of that. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab a screen. Drag it over there. Make it bigger. Maybe like that. Then I'm going to do right click, send to back. Okay, now I've got my user interface in front. Okay, so the thing is what I did is I took a prop, which is basically this screen, and quickly slapped a user interface design on the top of it to tell my story. So what that does is that takes this user interface and it situates it in a context. Maybe I'll grab a projector over here and make it a little bigger and mount it on the ceiling. Alright, so I got a projector, I got a screen, I got a thing here. Now let's see, what do I want to do? I want to put it on a handheld computer. Alright, so I'll come across here. Oh, let's get that under control there. Okay, I want to have the same user interface here as what we see up on the big screen, so I'll copy that, do a paste. I've got that over there. And then I'll rotate it, and I'll shrink it down. Maybe make it a little smaller. And use the arrow keys to position it. Alright, now, is it exactly set? No, it's not. Do I care? Not really, because what I've done is I've said I've got a projector, I've got a user interface here, the same user interface is on the wall. I'm going to grab my pointing finger. It's way too big. One of the things I always make these things way too big, and I do that on purpose, so that, number one, I can get them whatever size I want, but number two, turns out when I take sketchy things and scale them down, they actually look a lot better. So I could adjust that to right size, and there I've got. Okay, I quickly threw together a story which says I've got some kind of a user interface that I want to mock up, put it on my handheld device, manipulate it, and throw it up on a projector screen. Quick story, easy to do, no problem. Those are your basic interactive techniques for how to sketch an experience using PowerPoint.